What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk here. I am back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Erik Karlsson and the trade that almost happened, apparently according to multiple verified sources that you guys could easily read on the internet. Was Erik Karlsson close to being a Vegas Golden Knight? We're going to touch on that, and you see the title. Is Erik Karlsson possibly getting moved to Vegas next season? Now, hold on a second. Before you get all ticked off and say, this isn't happening, this is, we're getting close to the playoffs, why does this matter? This is a fun video that I want to do. I'm not the biggest guy on what ifs, but it's cool to think about when you make these types of video. I think it's Mike Korzemba who's done videos like this for the NBA, where he says, what if LeBron James joined the 76ers? And it's like, what if Erik Karlsson joined the Vegas Golden Knights? And we're going to look at that in a couple different ways. So before you get really mad about this is a fun discussion video. So if you like this style of video, let me know. If you don't, you can let me know as well. But please, let's just keep it to a fun discussion, because there is legitimate facts behind the fact that this trade almost happened. And if a guy like Elliotte Friedman says that there was a chance that this was happening, then there probably was a chance this was happening, because Elliotte Friedman is like the god of breaking news, basically, when it comes to hockey. I'm a huge fan of his. If he ever watches any of my videos, I would thank him a million times. But we're going to get into it, because there was a chance that on February 26th, at the trade deadline, that Erik Karlsson was going to get traded, and there was a possibility that it was to the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, first of all, Neil and I were talking about this during the live stream for the trade deadline, that Erik Karlsson was a name that was tossed around. He was the biggest name that was being thrown around the NHL. People were at least checking in to see how much he was worth, and people were saying it was quite a lot to pay for him. But at the same time, you were getting Karlsson for a cup run if you were obviously a contending team, and then a whole year, which is next season, and then he's a free agent, hoping your team could possibly sign him and keep him so the trade looks a lot better for your team. But it obviously didn't happen, but we're going to get into the fact that it might have almost happened, and I've got some stuff with me that can prove that the trade almost happened. And quickly, let me touch on the fact that a lot of people are saying Erik Karlsson's happy in Ottawa, he doesn't want to leave, and none of this matters because he says he wants to stay now. Let me just let you in on a small thing. Obviously, a guy like Patrick Marleau is a guy who's going to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt. You can't really compare him to Karlsson, but people are saying, oh, Karlsson's not going to care, he's going to sign with Ottawa. Well, what reason did Patrick Marleau have to leave the team that he's been with his whole career and go to the Toronto Maple Leafs? The Sharks are still contenders, and maybe not top of the league contenders, but they still are in the hunt, arguably have a playoff-built team better than the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he left to come to a much younger Leafs team where he's never played before, and a lot of people were like, damn, Patrick Marleau really left the Sharks. And it's like, anybody could leave your team. There's been countless things. Stamkos almost left Tampa. I mean, Toronto even offered him a lot of money. And it's not just about Toronto. There's a ton of different players that are kind of on the fence. Like, look at Tavares. Yeah, maybe he wants to stay with the Islanders, but that doesn't mean he's going to if he gets the right offer from another team. If Karlsson goes to free agency, he might not want to stay with Ottawa. So Ottawa's going to have to look at it that way. And I think that's what they're doing. The fans are saying, oh, but look, he wants to stay. But it's that if he goes to another team, if he decides to go somewhere else, it's not going to look good on Ottawa's management part, because you can get a king's ransom for Erik Karlsson. Now, here's the thing. Since the deal didn't happen on deadline day, like I mentioned, you obviously aren't going to get the same return. You're still going to get a monster return for him in the offseason if you decide to deal him. Hell, even at the deadline this year. But every big event, like the deadline this year, like the draft coming up, it's going to move down a little bit. You're going to see a little bit of a drop in asking price, because you're getting him for less time. Like, if you trade for him at the draft, which is pretty likely if they want to get a monster return, then you get him for a full season. If you get him at the deadline, it's going to go down a little bit. You're still going to pay quite a bit, but you're only getting him for half a season, because there's no guarantee that he'll sign with you unless that's part of the deal, which it's not going to happen. So let's get into some more details on the trade that didn't happen. So this article comes from Spectres Hockey that I was looking at. I've got some stuff down here as part of the article. You guys know I love Spectres Hockey. But at the deadline, there was talk that Erik Karlsson was getting some interest from a Western Conference team, and of course it was the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, whether or not that they were going to include Bobby Ryan in the package is something that Elliotte Friedman touched on, because he does not believe that Vegas was willing to take on Bobby Ryan's contract. So Elliotte Friedman reported that the rumblings around the trade details, maybe this was an offer that Vegas had on the table, was 2 first-rounders, a high-level prospect, and a conditional pick. And apparently the conditions might have been if Karlsson stayed with the Vegas Golden Knights and signed past next season, which obviously that conditional pick would probably become another first rounder in the future, or maybe a second. I would imagine it would probably be a second or first. I can't see it being anything lower than that. But Elliotte Friedman also states that he doesn't believe that Bobby Ryan's contract would have been involved in this trade had the deal gone through, because of the fact that they were forking over so much. A lot of people were kind of frustrated in the fact that Karlsson didn't get moved, and I understand. He's a big name. Trading a big name player would be huge. And a lot of people were tweeting on deadline day, because I was trying to read tweets. You can watch the stream again. It's on the channel. Neil and I were going through tweets trying to find anything. The only thing that I found afterwards, when the Karlsson thing kind of went away, was the fact that people were confused why, if the deal was on the table and if Bobby Ryan had to be involved, why Vegas wouldn't take on his cap hit, which is $7.25 million through the 2022 season, I believe. And obviously Vegas was a little bit hesitant to do that because of the fact that A, it's a lot of money for Bobby Ryan, B, if he doesn't mesh with this Vegas team, it's going to look bad. C, if they buy him out, they're still paying. And D, I mean, if Bobby Ryan just doesn't work, it flat out looks stupid for them to overpay for Karlsson and Bobby Ryan and then have Karlsson leave and then Bobby Ryan not score any goals. It's a big mix-up of A, B, and C. It just wouldn't work properly. And obviously, Vegas isn't shy to taking on some money. I mean, in that 3-way trade, they took on Brassard's salary, and of course, they ended up acquiring Thomas Tatar. And of course, Vegas acquired Thomas Tatar from the Detroit Red Wings for the first-round pick in the upcoming draft 2018, a second-round pick in 2019, and a third-round pick in 2021, and of course, Tatar's salary, which I think is just over $4 million. I can't remember how many years. I think Vegas overpaid for Tatar. I think he's a good player and he's going to help them, of course. But the fact of the matter is that Vegas team didn't need Tatar. If he provides them some boost in the playoffs, I mean, that's great. But I think he's been a pretty decent pickup for them so far. Just for a first, a second, and a third, it kind of looked like Vegas was like, oh, damn, this deal isn't going through. Well, I'm going to just pick up Tatar. And that's the way I look at it. I think Vegas was really at the table with Ottawa to the last minute. And that's why the Tatar trade came in so late into the, the trade deadline stream and discussion that Sportsnet and TSN were having. It was basically right at the end because of the fact that I think they were at the table. I think they were really trying. And there was a lot of reporters that were saying that the deal almost happened. At one point, I can't remember which reporter said it, but at one point, Vegas thought they had acquired Karlsson. So that's how close the deal was. There really was something there. And people are saying there's a big chance that it could get picked back up at the draft this year. Now, Vegas does not have that pick this year, so that obviously wouldn't be a part of the deal, but they have other pieces. They still have their second-round pick for this year's draft, and they have first-round picks in the 2019 and 2020 draft. And, of course, they have seconds and thirds that are mixed in from trades from the expansion draft and stuff like that. So they do still have a ton of picks. Now, for them to sacrifice all of those picks would be tough for Vegas. But at the same time, if they believe that they can acquire Erik Karlsson and possibly sign him long-term, that may be able to balance itself out. Although you are kind of sacrificing your future. If some of these guys that had fantastic years this year and even next year are demanding big contracts, I know they've already extended some players, but if you still are having trouble extending some of these other players, then it's not going to look too great if you don't have anybody for the future to fill up those holes. But they do have some good players that could be a part of a potential Karlsson deal or come in to replace other players. But just looking at the deal itself, if Vegas wasn't willing to give up both of their next first-round picks, then obviously there's some players that could be involved in the deal. I don't know if they'd be willing to give up a guy like Alex Tuck or maybe Nick Suzuki or Cody Glass. But those are some names that pop up, and maybe even Philip Holm. If those were guys that were part of the deal for Karlsson at the draft, I think a lot of Vegas fans would be like, hey, yeah, you know, we got Karlsson, but you're kind of giving up pieces to our future, and Tuck has been a very good rookie for them this year, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen and from stats I've read and games I've watched. But I don't know, if Vegas seems to want Karlsson this much, I can almost guarantee you that McPhee is going to at least talk again to Ottawa if, you know, they're willing to make something happen. Whether or not that Bobby Ryan's involved in the trade deal, we'll have to see. But it's worth noting that they're probably going to have another discussion. If they were that invested in Karlsson and thought that they had him, they're probably going to have to talk again. And I think Ottawa would entertain another discussion. But like I said, McPhee can say, listen, I didn't get him for the playoff run regardless of what happened. Obviously, we don't know what's happened yet because it's still before the playoffs, or if you're watching this after, I don't know because I can't tell the future, but whatever Vegas does in the playoffs, he'll say, listen, I didn't get him for that playoff run. I need him for this season, yes, but first of all, I don't know if he's going to stay with my team past this season, and like I said, I didn't get him for the end of last season, so this price is going to go down a little bit. So you never know what they could come up with. Maybe Bobby Ryan becomes part of the contract if Vegas lets go of a couple of their free agents. Regardless of what happens, maybe they feel like Bobby Ryan could be a good addition to their team. I don't know if that'll work. Again, chemistry. But again, this is all speculation. It's just for fun. I thought this would be a fun video. If I left any details out, please let me know. But I thought it would just be a cool discussion to make. Who knows? Could Erik Karlsson be a Vegas Golden Knight next season? Going into next season, Erik Karlsson, a defenseman for the Vegas Golden Knights. Let that sink in with the team that they have, and regardless of what they're going to do in the playoffs, it would be fun. Let me know what you guys think about this video. I had fun doing this one. It does take quite a lot of research, but again, let me know what you guys think. I love hearing from you. Hopefully you subscribe if you're new. I'd love to have more hockey conversations with you. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Peace.